podcast called Dub Jellison Podcast.
First ever type 1 diabetic in UFC history.
Doing fine, Dub. Nice to be with you.
Get out!
He's like, yeah. My tunnel vision and my periphery, I'm like off field.
Hey, you know how it is, though. Hey, when your team.
I don't remember that. That's crazy.
What's up, everybody? We're back with another episode of Dub Jellison Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Wes Stowers. Wes, how are you?
Pretty good, man. Appreciate you having me on call here today.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for coming on, taking time to do this. And another shout out to Jake Mills. I know he's been putting in work getting me guys recently, so shout out to him. I really appreciate his work.
Yeah, for sure. Shout outs to Mills.
So before we hopped on here, we were talking about your job with Eli Lilly. How are you liking that so far?
Man, it was quite a transition, from playing ball my entire life to, corporate America, sitting down every day and, having to be strategic and, talking to your colleagues every day who are very bright, very quick, have a lot of experience. But I enjoy it, man. It's a challenge. It's something new every day. The people I work with, man, I love them. They're really insightful. They support me. So I just feel like I'm getting better and better every day. So it's been a pretty good situation so far.
Mm-hmm. I know Rayfeld Davis, who I've had on the podcast, he worked there for a few years, and then he's doing like basketball camps and training and stuff like that. Do you ever get, like, when you first started, did you get antsy? You want to get up and start doing stuff all the time?
Oh yeah, of course. Similar to Raphael, I coach, so I kind of got that itch, and I hoop in leagues across the Indy area, every week. But that itch to be competitive and to go through a whole season. So I went back to North Central, and I've been coaching since 2019. So developed that itch and sort of acted on it and went back to North Central.
And that was going to lead into my next question. How difficult was it for you to transition to life without basketball, like every single day at the level that you were playing at?
It's tough, man, but, all my life I've been more than just a basketball player. I love the game. It's my favorite thing to do. But I've always gotten really good grades. I've always been interested in other activities. And so that transition, it was tough, playing at a high level in college, but at the end of the day, I've always been more than just basketball. So I think my transition was a little easier than others.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of guys, especially people that play at the lower levels of college, NAIA, like yourself, or D3, D2, whatever the case may be, they have to be real with themselves and be like, for sure you could have played overseas. There's no doubt in my mind. Yeah. But some of you guys have to be real with yourselves and be like, hey, is this something that I want to kind of pursue overseas, or do I want to settle down and find a job and do something like that?
Yeah, I'm going into college, man. I was like, I want to go over to Spain. Like, I want to be an overseas player. Like, that was the only thing on my mind. And as I start to mature, I just start to think about, life after basketball. And I was real with myself. I think my resume and just, the skills that I have, I definitely could have, spent a couple years overseas. But, I'm 5'10", 160 pounds, soaking wet, right? Just I had to be real with myself and make a mature decision. So when Lilly, when that offer came on board, there wasn't a decision that, I needed to make in terms of my future, in terms of things that, I want to accomplish in my life. It was time to say goodbye to, playing competitively, like in leagues and like that, and, really walk into a new challenge.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of talked about, like, you play every week out at the very least you play every week. What types of leagues are you playing in?
So I'm at the downtown Ursay YMCA. It's some really good comp, pro players, college level players. I play with my boy John Jordan. He actually picked me up. I was in like the B League over there, honestly killing it. But I was playing with some guys that don't really even hoop. So he picked me up, and then I played with my my boy TJ Henderson with our last year at Marion. So he's in the process of going back overseas or getting ready to get on the G League team here. So it's fun. It's fun. And then I also play with Mills out in Noblesville. I wouldn't say the comp is as much or as competitive as the Ursay YMCA, but I drive 20, 30 minutes all the way out to Noblesville, man. So I take it pretty serious.
I mean, at least it's like closer to, because I live on the way, me and Mills, well, he doesn't live there anymore, but we used to live in North Harbor. That's like near Cicero and Westfield. Or at least it's closer to you. I'm assuming you go to like LA.
Like a gym normally. I go to the Ursay. I go to the Ursay downtown.
When you play in Noblesville, where do you go?
Oh, the Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, fair enough. But you talked about, you still kind of fulfill that itch by coaching. How cool is it for you to be back coaching where you went to high school at?
Man, it's full circle. And it's really special. So I'm the head coach of the freshman team. And I don't think people know this, just given my career at Marion and then my last year at North Central. People don't know that I played freshman ball my entire freshman year of high school. And so I think it's a thing now that, coming from middle school, if you're a talented basketball player, you'll probably play JV varsity. But at North Central, we're stacked. We were stacked. We talk about Ronnie Johnson, Pat Ingram. They went into the Big Ten after high school. Wes Stowers, Darius Latham. And I can name some guys that you probably don't even know of who could hoop, who were better than me. So I was placed on the freshman team. I was honestly mad about that. I definitely should have been on JV varsity. So I still give the coaches, give them some stuff about that. But the fact that I'm the, freshman head coach 10 years later, it's full circle. And I still talk to those guys that I played freshman ball with, still have really good relationships. So, and it's truly full circle.
I saw your guys' like social media page. I think they just like made it a few days ago, maybe. Yeah. And it's like you and Devonte Smith Rivera as like the JV and freshman coach. That's insane to me.
Yeah, that's insane. Cool. Yeah, no, Devonte, I think if you're from Indiana, Devonte's, he's a legend. Resume just speaks for itself, accomplished so much at North Central. But, for me, just being part of Washington Township my entire life, like I've known Devonte was like that from when he was in elementary school. So the fact that we have him as our JV coach, that's, I think that's really important. And I think the guys that, he'll coach will really appreciate him. And then obviously everything that I've been able to accomplish throughout high school and college, I'm really happy to be back as well.
Yeah, don't sell yourself short because you're a legend too, in my eyes. Do you like coaching the freshmen compared to JV and varsity? I know you might not have had that experience with the upper levels, I guess, but how much do you like being with the freshman guys?
I do. Anything associated with North Central, I'm all about it. And the whole freshman gig, I'm not really able to move up because JV and varsity, they start practice at, 3:00.
Yeah.
I'm wrapping up my day because I'm 100% focused into my career at Lilly and building my capabilities and skills here and hopefully climbing that corporate ladder. So that's a big reason why I'm with the freshman team, but I love it. I think 10 times out of 10, I am correct about things that I see. Just coming in as young players, like from middle school, they think they know more than what they do. They're better than what they are. And so just that process of them maturing and really becoming high school players is something that I love to see.
Do you ever have to put them in your place and give them the work real quick?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I lace up. I'll do it like once or twice. I'll lace up. But they can see because I'll shoot around with them. And I think they're able to tell because of the things that I say, how I'm going to take care of myself on the court. I'll always come prepared, but I don't need a practice plan. I could do a 2-hour practice and really get the guys through some good work and better themselves as a team. So I just think, how I come and how I present myself, when I'm in practice and around them, they kind of know.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of like life lessons, or when you guys are talking about life, how do you kind of approach that aspect of coaching?
Yeah, man, there's so many life lessons when it comes to coaching. And for example, I'll just point out one. We've all ran suicides. We've all ran sprints, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say dang near every practice, man, there's like a kid or two that doesn't touch the line, right? It's probably like an inch or two away from touching the line fully. And if you think about that, they're shortcutting themselves, right? So instead of, focusing just a little bit more so that you can go 1 or 2 inches to touch that line, right? It really speaks volumes, because you start to ask, what other shortcuts are you taking? You're probably taking, if you're not touching the line, if you're consistently not touching the line when we're doing suicides and we're doing sprints, you're probably shortcutting, the classroom and other important things that you have in life. So I think just one thing that I emphasize is, working hard, finishing things through, seeing things through, and that'll carry over, to different aspects of your life.
And do you have kind of that like old school mentality, or is it a mixture of old school and new school? And how do you find that balance of being hard on the kids and pushing them to be better while also like creating that healthy environment?
I think it's a balance. So my tendency, I build my guys up. So offensively, man, you can shoot whatever shot you want. Obviously, there are some bad shots, and you want to move the ball around, right? One more with the pass and all that good stuff. And I don't know if old coaches do that, right? Build their up so that they feel confident in their abilities. But in terms of like my old school tendencies, like we practice hard. We go really hard in practice, little things like missed layups, attitude, stuff like that. We're on the line. So we go, I don't even care that they're freshmen. We go like 2.5 hours and we really get it in.
I mean, they got the energy for that though.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
Next, I wanted to kind of talk about the Indiana high school basketball. I know you kind of touched on it a little bit with just the history of North Central. How special is it to play in that atmosphere? And how would you explain it for people that aren't from here? Because I don't think they really get it.
So I have this story. It was my sophomore year, right? And we're getting ready to play Carmel. And so we're watching film and breaking down key players. And I'm just like, I don't get this. Like, I don't get why they're so good. I don't get why this is such a big game. And I've been to games, but like now it's a little different now that you're like preparing for that varsity game against Carmel on Friday. And I'm like, I don't get it. Like, we're about to wax these guys. So the night of the game, JV gets done. We clap it up in the locker room. We're running out. And I'm still like, man, is this really a big game? So we're running out, Dub. And I kid you not, like I felt the ground shaking. The student sections were going crazy. So I'm like, oh, wow, like this is for real. And I was a sophomore then, and I was the backup point guard for Wes Stowers. And I kind of just felt myself just like eating popcorn on the bench, just like watching a true show. But no, those guys at Carmel, who was coached by Scott Hetty, my coach, at my last 2 years of Marion, like the fact that I was able to be coached by Coach Hetty, I understand why they were so good. And they had some really talented guys like Klein and Volovic and Mick Roberts. They had a really good team, but just on paper, I didn't really realize like how good they were until I ran out there on that court.
Now, was that game at home or at Carmel? It
was at home, and Volovic ended up hitting the go-ahead three-pointer. I think it was pretty much a buzzer beater. Yeah, he gamed us.
He was a dog in high school.
Yeah, nah, he was a dog. He was a dog. Shout out to Mike.
I mean, what were those Friday nights like, though? Like those battles when you had big games against the likes of like Carmel and Ellen, LC, Park Tudor, Arsenal Tech. Like you go up and down the list, just like loaded teams. What were those atmospheres like?
It's crazy, man. It's something that I dreamed of, like coming up as a kid in elementary school and middle school. Like you just dream of playing in atmospheres like that, like student section saying crazy stuff, yelling, and you're going to battle against people that you know, like homies and friends that you grew up playing against, and then you're battling with your brothers that you've been knowing since first, second grade. Like it's high school basketball here in Indiana. It's like no other. It's like no other. I miss it.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any favorite schools to play against?
Pike was a game I always look forward to. Ellen, Carmel, those were the big three right there for me.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you could probably list off 100 guys, but who are some of the best guys that you played against in high school?
This is tough. CJ Walker, he's been tough. I mean, since we were kids. Zach Irvin, he was over at HSC. I was a little younger when I was playing him. Who else? Oh, Jalen Brown from Fishers. He was a problem. He was definitely a problem.
So I had Andrew Dockich on a couple days ago, and he mentioned him, and I hadn't even heard of him.
He was tough. He's been like that. I think he's overseas now.
Mm-hmm.
But like super athletic, played the passing lanes. I mean, so well. He was definitely somebody I really didn't want to see.
Did you ever play HSC when they had Irvin, Gary Harris, and Randy Gregory?
I was a freshman, so when if you recall, Gary gamed us
mm-hmm.
In sectionals. It was Ronnie and Pat's senior year. I was in the stands, bro.
So was I. I was there.
Yeah. And then the next year we got them back.
Mm-hmm.
We played them at Carmel, and it was Zach Irvin's senior year.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to get them back. But no, Gary, Zach, I mean, Bledsoe, the point guard, he was tough. Yeah, they were stacked.
And then kind of getting back to North Central, talk about all the talent that you guys have had over the past, 10, 15 years at this point.
Yeah, let me go off on some names. So Chris Wilkes, obviously, Cheesy, Mateo Rivera, and he plays at USI now. Chief Emmanuel, his nickname is Chief. Who else? I already named a couple guys earlier, but Jared Clark, he played football at Marion. Jordan Walker, people don't remember that he went to North Central. Aaron Gordon, Aaron was a problem. KJ LaShore, they were all in one class. Now we had some major dogs come out of North Central.
I mean, and then a little before that, you already mentioned Ronnie, but Tyrone Johnson and probably the best guy to ever come out of North Central, Eric Gordon.
Yeah, I think you're missing some names. You're missing, again, Devonte, AJ Ratliff, obviously the older heads, but Jason Gardner, he's definitely up there. But, yeah, we had some talent come through the walls of North Central.
And you were teammates with Chris, right?
Yeah, so I was a senior when Chris was a sophomore, and he was like that. He was, even though he was young, he was still, he was Chris Wilkes. You know what I'm saying?
Did you kind of, I mean, not like pass it to the side and let him dominate the game, but like, how did you kind of manage that? Just, I mean, because he's a specimen.
Yeah, nah. Along with Chris, I'll throw Cheesy in there as well, and Chief. I think they should be in the conversation with Chris because, they were able to win a lot of games with that trio. And how I approach that season is I'm the vet, like I'm the captain. Obviously, I was trying to really hoop because I needed a scholarship to go somewhere. But I sort of let Chris do his thing. I mean, he was at that point, a future McDonald's All-American. So making sure he was cool, making sure he was straight, making sure he was happy, with the shots that he was getting. But he really respected me as well, all the work that I put in and the guidance and just the leadership. So that was a really good team that we had that year.
I mean, I would stack up North Central with any school in Indy in terms of talent. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who else would be able to. I mean, there are teams that can match that, but
Pike, LN. I mean, I think all the mixed teams, obviously, like not the lower level team, but I mean, the talent here in this city over the past 25, 30 years has just been ridiculous.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, you mentioned that recruiting process. What was that like for you, and how did you end up choosing Marion?
So, I'll just have to go back to my junior year. So sophomore year, I had like a typical sophomore year, right? Trying to adjust to the varsity level. And so after that, I had a really good sectional. We beat HSC, we beat Fishers, and then we got whipped by Carmel. But like I had a really good showing in sectional. So going into my junior year was like, this is Wes's show. He's gonna be the starting point guard from North Central. That's something I dreamed of, bro. But I just didn't fulfill expectations that year. So I was kind of down about it. So going into my senior year, I didn't really have much like going on with recruiting. Had some D3s, some NAIAs, but like no offers. UND was in the mix too, but I had like no offers. So I was like really like hooping my life away, trying to get something on my end. I want to say after the season, I had Marion, I think I had Holy Cross, DePaul with the W, the D3, and then Wabash. And then Indiana State, man, they were in the loop. I was in contact with them. I thought they were gonna put the offer, but looking back, like, nah, probably not. But they were in contact, and I think they wanted me to like walk on. I was cool off that. I didn't want to be a walk on. So the fact that Marion was, here in the city, my family, my homies could pull up to games. I have some family ties there. Steve Downing, the AD there, he's like a family friend. And then I just trusted, Coach Harris at the time. So that's why I chose Marion.
And what were those 4 years like? I mean, you had an absolutely legendary career, All-American twice. I mean, Crossroads League, first team. I mean, how do you reflect on those 4 years?
I tell people, like, I blacked out, bro. Like, I don't know how I was hooping like that. Seriously. But it's fun. I think, like, the thing I'm most proud of, like, obviously I won the national championship. But I'm a program changer, bro. I came into the program, and we were not, like, a winning program. Like, we were, bottom of the conference. And in terms of those 4 years, from a player's perspective, like I definitely led the way. So the fact that we went from like a losing program to basically the NAIA powerhouse, to my senior year is special. And then the records are obviously cool, but that's not what I do it for. I did it for the wins. I did it, so that I could be prepared and make plays, during the game, but looking back, it's something that, my family and I were super proud, the fact that I was able to, be an All-American, be all conference and, set the records that I did.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think you're the best player to ever come out of Marion, in my opinion.
In my opinion as well.
I was about to say, do you consider yourself the Marion Goat, I guess?
Yeah, I do, but that's just a personal opinion. I think you got to ask the coaches, the fans. But I think when you have that discussion, it's about resume. Like, what are your records? What are your, were you All-American? Were you all conference? But then a big part of it is eye test.
Mm-hmm.
Like, over my 4 years, more times than not, like people were coming to Marion, I was putting on the show, and really doing my thing. So I consider myself the GOAT when it comes to Marion basketball, but people may have other opinions.
I recently had on Kyle Menges, who was two-time NAIA Player of the Year, and I was asking him, like, did he ever consider transferring? Because like, you're balling at the NAIA level, you could easily play D1, in my opinion. Like, he could, and I thought you could as well. Did you ever have thoughts of transferring and trying to go to a higher level?
Before I answer that, Kyle Menges is tough. He's a problem. But no, not really, man. I'm a loyal guy. And the fact that the program was sort of centered around me, when I got on campus, it's like, why would I go to a D1 school? Best case scenario, I'm a starting point guard for a D1 school, but not like the number one guy at Marion. Those 4 years, pretty much the number one guy. I had the green light, and I was just really motivated to win and make Marion a winning program. So it didn't really cross my mind at all.
And what about the Crossroads League? Because people sleep on that. Unless you're from Indiana, you don't really realize the level of basketball that you guys play in that league.
It's tough, and this is not a knock to people here in the city, but we get D1 transfers, Crossroads Leagues every year that just turn out to be regular, just hoopers. Not even number one guys on their team. Like, the Crossroads is definitely the best league in NAIA, and I think it could compete at the D2 level. And I say some of those top, like IWU, Bethel, St. Francis, Marion, some of their best teams could definitely compete with lower D1 level teams.
Yeah, 100%. Is that atmosphere kind of similar to high school at all? Just because it's a little bit of a smaller gym and things of that nature?
No, I would say the atmospheres were a little better in high school. But I went to North Central. Like, that North Central versus Pike before Thanksgiving, that's a sold-out crowd. And I didn't get that at Marion. I would say, like, when we had big games against, like, St. Francis, Indiana Wesleyan, like, people all around the city are definitely coming in to tune in. But I would definitely say my experience at North Central, in terms of, like, the crowd, the atmosphere, is probably better.
And do you have a game or stretch that stands out as most memorable to you?
In college?
Yeah.
So 2 games. So my junior year, we went to Fort Wayne to play St. Francis, and I swear we lost in double overtime, but I swear, like, we got cheated. It was like a situation where it's like 0.8 on the clock. Some guy gets the ball, tips it, catches it, spins it off the backboard, and we like, how do you do that in 0.8 seconds? And I hit what I thought were a couple daggers. Like, the whole team, we all played our heart out. So I got to the locker room. I'm not even about to explain what I was wearing. So I'm like, bet. Like, we got them in January. So they come to Marion, and like, we were on them, bro. Like, we were talking trash, and I was hooping, like, and my boys were hooping too. I got to give a shout out to Sterling Brown. He played at Carmel, and he played at Marion for, I think, 2 or 3 years. He was hooping. Then Reggie Kasumlaw, he was doing his thing down low. But yeah, that was memorable. I think I had like 36 that game. It was crazy. I went nuts. And then senior day. So I will say, like, for the past couple of years, bro, that Indiana Wesleyan game, the Marion Indiana Wesleyan game at Marion, it's just like a really good game. And just thinking about that, my senior day game, it was Mangus, Joel Okafor, me, TJ Henderson, Reggie Kasumlaw, like a whole bunch of big names, guys that transferred from D1 to play at our level. Gym was packed, and it was a new gym. Gym was packed, and we were just going back and forth, all game, and we came out on top. And again, I think I scored like 35, 36 points, so it was a nice way to go out.
And I know we're close on time, so just last two-part question here for you. Who's the best player you ever played with, and then the best player you've ever seen play.
Yo, so the best player I ever played with, this is tough. But if we're just thinking about the age and the time, I'm going to have to go with Aaron Gordon freshman year at North Central. I think he averaged like 20 points. Like, I mean, I was literally there were times where I'm on the bench like, man, this man is like, he's like that. He definitely like that. I'm going to have to give it to Aaron Gordon. And then played against, this is tough.
Played against or seen play?
Seen play.
That might not be a good question. Probably played against.
Played against. That's tough. I don't know. I don't know if I want to give somebody credit like that. I really don't. Yeah, that's one thing about me, man. Like, I got my homies. I got people that I play with that are my brothers, but, you know, and I got people that I grew up playing against, but I don't really do the kissing ass thing, man. I don't do that at all. I can't even. So I really don't even know. I don't even know.
Hey, that's fair. Fair enough.
Feel that.
But hey, man, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know you're a busy guy, but all best of luck going forward with your career and this upcoming year at coaching at North Central.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, Dub, and best of luck with this podcast.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All righty. Take care.
Yep, you too.
All right.